This is the RedLine, and I am your host, Jimmy Red. This is episode 6. Thanks for tuning in for the last 5. I really hope you guys have enjoyed those. Episode 6, here we go. First off, I want to start this show by acknowledging there is some stuff going on in sports right now. There are people who are not standing for the national anthem, all these athletes and all that stuff. I'm not here to give out my political views. I'm not here to give anybody what they should not and should do. I have my beliefs. You guys have yours. I'm not here to direct mine and throw those out there to you guys. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I just wanted to recognize that I did know what was going on, and I just wanted to leave it at that. We're here to discuss sports, football, basketball, baseball. We're not here to discuss that kind of stuff. So, with that being said, we're going to jump right into week 1 of the NFL. Week 1 in the NFL. Wow, it's pretty good. A lot of people probably missed a little bit of it, but that's fine. Week 1, definitely the Titans and the Seahawks. It's a pretty big game there. Obviously, the Seahawks are a big favorite. They could go to the Super Bowl. And the Titans are an up-and-coming team, you know. They look really, really well. So the Titans, on the other hand, they're the ones who came out with the upper hand in that game. They took the win, 33-27, which is pretty awesome, especially if you're a Titans fan. For a team to see develop like that with Marcus Mariota and beat the Legion of Boom, who is one of the top-tier defenses in the NFL, was pretty spectacular. I mean, they came in and they scored 21 unanswered points in the third quarter. 21 unanswered. In the third quarter, right after halftime. So I don't really know what was said in that locker room, but whatever it was, got them boys fired up and they were ready to go. Marcus Mariota had 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. He's really definitely showing his improvement in the league, especially against a top-tier defense like that. You got Cam Chancellor, you got Earl Thomas, you got Richard Sherman. All of them guys you're going against. And he kept poised and had a really good day, throw no interceptions and all that. The running game was even there. I mean, DeMarco Murray ran for 175 yards and a touchdown. His longest one was a 75-yard run. 75 yards. Against that defense is absolutely amazing. It shows how strong their offensive line is. And to have an offensive line that can block for running is really good. We saw what DeMarco could do when he was in Dallas with a good offensive line. Now he's got this other offensive line here in Tennessee that looks like they can block just as well for him. And that's going to give time for Marcus and DeMarco Murray. And it's only going to better them when they get to the goal line and they use the big man, Derrick Henry, to punch it in there. So that's really going to benefit Tennessee, I think, a lot. Tennessee had 4 field goals in that game. And that's good as well because that shows that you can have a kicker if you need him in the scenarios to kick a field goal for you. He can do it. And in this game of football now, you have to have a good place kicker because if not, it can cost you a game. And we've seen it happen numerous amounts of time, and especially seeing that extra point is moved back. Kicking a field goal is not the same as it used to be. I mean, you're kicking a chip shot for an extra point at almost 40 yards. So it's not as easy as it seems. It's the second time this year that the Titans have scored 30 points. And it's the second game in a row that they've done it. I mean, they beat the Jags last week, and then they beat this team this week. Both of them look like they had really good defenses. They got good offense. It's amazing that they can do that and keep that rolling. On the other side of the ball, Russell Wilson, he had a pretty good day. It wasn't terrible. He had 379 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's pretty good if you ask me. But he still lost, so you would consider it just an okay day. He had a late pass to Paul Richardson with 1:50 left to pull 27-33. Then they go and do an onside kick, and the man who recovers that onside kick is the tight end for the Tennessee Titans, Mr. Delaney Walker. Thank you, Mr. Delaney Walker, for the recovery. We really appreciate it because that was amazing. Delaney jumping on that really saved us a lot because if they could have got the ball back, already marching down the field that other time with 1:50, they could have did it again. And especially seeing that our defense was tired, it would have really been hard for us to stop them. I know we played good all day, but late in the game, they really got charging again once we took that lead and took those 21 unanswered, and they came back. Because at half, it was 14-9. And then we came and just marched away. So they could have came right back at any moment and took that from us Tennessee fans, being me, and it would have really hurt a lot to battle as strong as we did and lose all that. My takeaways from that game Tennessee's offense looks amazing. I mean, we got Delaney Walker, who looks good with our tight end. We have two running backs that look really strong, DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. Just got to keep DeMarco healthy. If we can keep him healthy, we're fine. And our quarterback, Marcus Mariota, man, he looks really, really, really good. With him playing the way he's playing right now, he could definitely, not saying contend for the MVP, but he's definitely going to be a candidate to show that he may be a very well improved player in years down the road, be an MVP candidate. Because that's what he needs to do to start his upward climb to be that guy. The Seahawks defense, it struggled. I'm not sure if they just had a bad week or what, but Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor just didn't have a real good game. And Richard Sherman, man, he couldn't keep himself out of trouble during that game. On one play, I remember watching, there was a ball passed to Eric Decker, and then there were 3 flags given to Richard Sherman on that one play because he hit him for a pass interference, then he held him, and then he yelled at the ref. So he got 15 for pass interference, he got 10 for holding, and 15 more for a personal foul from yelling. And his own teammate intercepted the ball. So basically, that's a huge swing. You intercepted it. I understand you had the PI, and I understand you had the holding. So you weren't going to get the interception, but don't give them 15 more from yelling at the ref. Because if you would have got one more because you kept jawing like you were, it would have tossed you. Is it really worth all that? I don't think so. So chill out, be a football player, play the game, keep your helmet on, and take that and go to the next play with it. And be mad at that. Don't let it distract you from your game, because once they see you're mad, they're going to attack you. And don't let that happen. AFC South, Titans definitely show they're the class of the AFC South. I can tell you that right now. Jacksonville won. They looked really good with their win, but they got beat by Tennessee last week. So the Titans are definitely showing they're the class of the NFC South. And I think they're still the favorite to win it, in my opinion, and that's what I'm going to go with. I'm not going to change my mind on that one. Let's go to game number 2 here. Another very exciting game we had there was the Falcons and the Lions. Wow. 30-26. There wasn't too much going on in that game, but there was a very controversial call there. I mean, Matt Stafford brought his team back, Mr. Comeback. He was trying to bring him back. He was rolling. I mean, he ended that game with 264 yards and 1 TD, but he was working it. He was trying to find a way to get his team back in it, which I'm very blessed to see a man who can do that as much as he has. They had no rushing touchdowns in that game at all by the Lions. Amir Abdul had 14 carries for 47 yards, which isn't too bad. It's not great, but it's not too bad. He could have been way better. Julio Jones only had 7 receptions for 91 yards and no touchdowns. So Atlanta didn't have too much going on the passing side, but Matt Stafford, back to him. He brought his team back, and then they go to make this play at the end of the game that was to Golden Tate at the goal line. He catches it, and they rule it a catch. Touchdown, bang, he's in the end zone. 8 seconds left on the clock. They go back, because in the NFL, all scoring plays are reviewed. They review the play, and his knee touched the ground before it crossed the goal line. Well, by rule, in the NFL, it was a running clock. The Lions had no touchdowns left. The review would have accounted for a 10-second runoff, because it would have still been a running clock if they would have not counted it as a touchdown, because the clock would have stayed running. And that ran the clock to 0. They took the points away, and Atlanta won the game. Wow. Atlanta should have been beat twice so far this year. Twice. They should have been beat by the Bears, and they should have been beat by the Lions. And guess what? They escaped both of them. I don't think the Lions are that good. The NFC North, or the NFC South, with Carolina and the Falcons and the Saints and the Bucks, a little bit all over the board. Carolina looked a little rough. Jameis Winston's got to figure out how to not throw interceptions. Drew Brees looked amazing when he played Carolina this week. But if Carolina don't figure a way to pick it up, then Atlanta is going to win the division, and they're going to be a disgrace to the conference again, and that's what we don't need. So we need somebody to come in there and show Atlanta how they can be beat, because yet they've not been beat. They've been a way to escape everything this year, and it's incredible how they found a way to do it. Matt Ryan, on the other side of the ball, only had 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he threw 3 interceptions. 3 of them. And he did that against the Lions defense. The Lions got a pretty good defense, but it's not like top of the league. And Matt Ryan threw 3 interceptions. And he was your MVP last year. You can't have a guy come in there and do something like that and expect your team to go win. They won, but they barely escaped it. They shouldn't have won that game. And by miraculous, they did. If they play like this the rest of the year, they will not win the NFC South. I think the Saints will find a way to climb in there, or Carolina. I think Jameis still throws interceptions this year, and I think Atlanta finds a way to fall and possibly get in on a wild card. The running, though, for Atlanta is really good. The running's still there. I mean, they still got the best running combo, I think, in football. You got Devontae Freeman and you got Tevin Coleman. Devontae Freeman ran for 21 rushes for 106 yards and 1 TD. So pretty solid day. The running game was there. No fumbles. Didn't lose the ball. Stayed solid. Same thing with Coleman. Coleman had a few less yards, but he never lost the football. Matt Ryan couldn't hold on to it, and he threw 3 picks. Running game is there, but they've figured out how to read Matt Ryan, I think, Atlanta. And if Matt comes in there again and has another bad game like that, I think he's exposed, and you can't expose a quarterback because Matt Ryan isn't an A-plus quarterback. He's only a B, maybe even a C quarterback in this league. He's average. He had one great year, just like Cam Newton. Cam Newton won the MVP, and the next year he's just average. Same thing happened. I think Matt Ryan's going to have the same thing. He's going to have that fall. He had that one MVP year, and then he's going to fall this year, and he's going to be an average quarterback, just like he was. And if that's the case, then Atlanta is really going to struggle, especially with who they got to play in the upcoming weeks. So my takeaways from that game are the Lions, man, I think the Lions are for real this year. I really do. They look really good. Matt Stafford really strong. Everybody was giving him a lot of problems about, hey, you just signed the biggest contract in NFL history. He shows that he can bring the team there to play, and he's brought them all year to play. So I think that's really good, and I think the Lions are for real this year. They really are, and I see them as really as contenders down the road against those NFC guys like the Packers and the Seahawks. I see them guys battling to go to the Super Bowl later this year with those guys, and I wouldn't be shocked if they find a way to make it there. And even against Dallas, I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys play against any of them and hang with them. The Falcons, I don't think they're as good as people are making them out to be. I mean, I know they're 3-0. They went to the Super Bowl last year and lost. They don't have the Super Bowl hangover as of right now, but the year's still young and they could fall apart real quick. If they go in and they play Carolina and then they play the Saints and then they play Tampa Bay and they lose those division games, the ones that you need to win, you're hurt. And that's really going to hurt. And I think they have to play strong in those division games, but I don't know how strong they're going to play in those division games. We have to see what they do next week to decide, but I don't think they're as good as people make them out to be. And I think they're on their way to possibly just missing the playoffs and having that Super Bowl hangover because they're not really looking that good this year. And once everybody gets rolling on those other teams, I think they're going to go the wrong direction. So, Atlanta, you got to find a way to step it up because I don't think you're as good as you were last year. You're not averaging 34 points a game. And that's definitely hurting, for sure. Another game that was pretty exciting there at the end of it was the Houston and the Pats game. Man, that was a pretty good game there. The Pats won the game, 36-33. It was pretty crazy. Brady hit Brandon Cooks for a 25-yard toe-tapping TD with 23 seconds left in the game. Brandon Cooks, the guy they just acquired, and they go and do that. Especially when he doesn't have the weapons that he had before he got hurt at the start of the year. Now he's found another one in Brandon Cooks, maybe, possibly. That showed it right there. The Patriots at home are 22-2 in the last 8 years. That's big. And they almost added a loss to that, but you had Mr. Tom Brady on your team. And Mr. Brady is not a shabby slouch in himself. And he had a really good game there. He threw 25 for 35, 378 yards, 5 touchdowns. Again this week. That's 5 touchdowns. That's back-to-back weeks he's thrown 5 touchdowns. Wow. That's 10 touchdowns in 2 weeks. He's got 5 of those in his career. No, 6 of those in his career. Sorry, I apologize. He had 6 of those in his career. He's one short of Drew Brees. The only person in front of him is Drew Brees. Drew Brees is the only person to have more 5-game touchdowns with no interceptions than him. Brady is spectacular. I'm a man to tell you, I thought at the start of the year, the first game he looked sluggish, and I thought the age was setting in. But man, he went back to the drawing board, and I don't know what he did, but boy, he found himself. And Brady is back. He's thrown 10 touchdowns in 2 weeks. That's incredible. And he's marched his team, and he's done everything they've needed to do. Brandon Cooks into that game with 2 touchdowns, 131 yards. It's pretty good. That's the 5th time in his career that he's had a multi-career touchdown, and the 8th time in his career that he's had over 100 yards. It's pretty spectacular. It shows that you're a pretty good star receiver there, and to have him there and be catching balls by Tom Brady, I expect those numbers to go up. I expect him to have at least 3 more of those this year, to each of those at least. The rushing TDs, though, they pretty much got shut down. They didn't get any rushing TDs, but, Gillislee led the team with 12 carries, 31 yards. His longest rush was 8. Do you really need that great of a rushing game when you have Tom Brady? You need a running game of some sort, but you don't need that great of one. You need to be able to move the ball and show that you will run it. But when you got Tom Brady, he's going to find a way to get somebody open. That's just Brady. And man, he looked good. He looked amazing. It was incredible how he could do that, and he just opens the field up. But on the other side of the ball, we had the rookie out of Clemson, Mr. Deshaun Watson. That kid looks really good, I'm telling you. He's one of those up-and-coming stars. He's like a Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott. All of these guys here are our future. Jared Goff, that's the future of the NFL. And they look really good. It's bright, for sure. Let me tell you. And we have more coming in this year. You got Sam Darnold coming in. So for Deshaun Watson to play as good as he did against the Pats was really cool to me. And he threw for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 INTs. I understand he threw the 2 interceptions, but he's a rookie. He's going to make rookie mistakes. It's the NFL. It's completely different than how college is played. Completely. And he kept his head composed, and he didn't lose it. He didn't yell. He didn't do nothing. And he quoted after the game, "It was really painful." Yeah, I bet it was. You had a chance to beat Tom Brady at home, who's 22-2 at home over the last 8 years, and it slipped away because he marched it down the field and scored a touchdown. You played the game of your life to go do that, and it was crazy. Everybody rallied against you. An amazing game. And Deshaun Watson, if he plays like this, he's going to be a star. I'm telling you, Deshaun Watson is a star. They also had no running game, really. They didn't score a rushing touchdown in that game either. So that game was basically all air. It was Deshaun Watson and Tom Brady. And Tom Brady won the duel on experience. No interception, and that's basically what ultimately won that game for the Patriots, is they didn't cough the ball up, and Deshaun Watson just made some rookie mistakes. My takeaway from that game is the Pats offense still looks good. They still have it. As long as that big number 12 is under center, they're fine, it seems like right now. And I think they'll even be fine if they were to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo under center because Brady had a problem. That offense is just well-rounded. I mean, they have, I think, the best coordinators in football, offensive Josh McDaniels and defensive Matt Patricia. Then you put the mastermind in the middle, Bill Belichick, and I think that just puts the whole deal together. And it seems like you could put any quarterback in there, and it could pretty much be successful. Their offense looks amazing, and that's period on that. Their defense, it's got a little work to do, definitely because Dante Hightower is the leader of that, and he wasn't there at the game. He's hurt. So they got to find that new leader. I don't know who's going to step up and be that leader, but Dante Hightower's got to find someone he can teach and get to be that leader, because without Dante Hightower, you can tell their identity is definitely not there. They're sluggish and they don't look as good, especially with Deshaun Watson. I understand they got 2 interceptions, but Deshaun Watson threw for 301 yards and he's only a rookie. So the defense has to find a new leader. And with that, we're going to jump into another game. The Bengals and the Packers. Man, that was a really good game right there. That one went into overtime, and it was nuts. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. We just talked about Brady being a great. What about Aaron Rodgers? I know he's only got one Super Bowl, but still, Aaron Rodgers. Who would have thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be this out of college? It's incredible. They won 27-24 in overtime. Aaron Rodgers had 313 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He hit Jordy Nelson for a 3-yard slant route on the side of the end zone to tie the game up. Jordy Nelson, his favorite target. He loves Jordy Nelson. Their running game, they don't have much of a running game there. You basically have to pass the ball because their running back is a wide receiver that they drafted, Ty Montgomery. So Jordy Nelson is his favorite target, and that's who he went to. It was amazing. It was beautiful. They tied it at 24 with that play, and they went into overtime. In overtime, it was 3rd and 10 from the 21, and Brady finds Geronimo Allison for a 40-yard pass, and he runs, and after it's all said and done, it winds up being a 72-yard catch and run. The next play, they get the ball where they want. Brady snaps the ball, they put the ball where they want it, and they bring in Mason Crosby. Crosby comes in, he kicks it from 27, and he wins the game. Bang, right down the middle. And that's clutch right there when you can bring a guy in with that kind of pressure to do it. With 6 minutes and 26 seconds left in overtime, I understand it's 27 yards. Most people would think that is a chip shot. For me, I couldn't kick 27 yards. I know I couldn't do it. I give that guy credit all day. The extra point's longer than that. I understand. But with the pressure he was feeling there, I'm sure 27 yards looked more like 47 yards. So for him to step up and hit that, it was crazy. And Rodgers, you can't say enough about that guy. He's amazing. He's clutch when he needs to be clutch. He can win games and everything. And that was his first overtime win. Brady, I'm sorry, I keep saying Brady. Rodgers has not won an overtime game. Has not won one. That was his first win in overtime. And that is crazy to think of a guy of those standards to win his first game in overtime was right then against the Bengals. The Bengals, though, they look better on offense. Definitely look better on offense. The Bengals lost, put them at 0-3. This is the first time they've started 0-3 since the 2008 season. Man, it's crazy. I don't know how you can do that. Dalton looked better, definitely, because they fired their OC, and their OC is a new guy. Dalton threw 212 yards and 2 touchdowns, one to Giovanni Bernard and one to A.J. Green, and A.J. Green was thrilled. Definitely would say that. The reason he was thrilled is because he snapped a 25 pass possession, streak of not scoring anything. And for AJ to go that long from Andy to not score, it's pretty nuts because you're used to hearing from them doing it a lot. He ended up with 10 receptions, 111 yards, and a TD. And for that, that's pretty good. The running back, the rookie, Mr. Joe Mixon there, who has a lot of controversy who carries him, and they were the ones who drafted him. He seems like he's a pretty good prospect there. He had 18 carries, 62 yards. He didn't have any TDs, but he seems like he's progressing every week, and he's making more people have to watch him and be concerned about the running game there. So I think that's going to open the passing game up for Dalton, and hopefully it turns around there, especially with this new OC they got. The Packers D, I think, has to step up a little bit. I think that they got to find a way to get a little stronger and find a way to gain back who the Packers are on defense. I mean, the Bengals kind of did a little bit of what they wanted on offense there with a new offensive coordinator, and they couldn't do what they really wanted to do as much as I'm used to seeing with the Packers. The Packers offense, though, they didn't have any problem. They looked great. Aaron, I know he threw that INT, and speaking of that INT there that we're talking about, that was only his second pick six of his career. The last one he threw was November 9th, 2009, I think was the year. 2009, November 8th, 2009, and it was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's only thrown 2 in his career. So he's very consistent. So their offense is definitely going to be rolling. If he can keep Jordy Nelson healthy, they're fine. If they can figure out a way to get Ty Montgomery to run the ball and get him open hole so he can open up the passing game. That's awesome. And Adams looks good. They're just rolling all offense. Aaron Rodgers, he could be as of now, he's one of my favorite candidates to win the MVP for the year. I know we're only 3 games in, but Aaron Rodgers is definitely a candidate who could go for the MVP. Him and Brady and Breeze, they're all right there in my mind for the MVP. The Bengals, what's up for the Bengals? Well, the next step for the Bengals is definitely to win a game. They fired their offensive coordinator, but everything has went the direction they needed to go with that move. I don't think they need to move quarterbacks from Andy Dalton yet, and I don't think they need to put in A.J. McCarron. I think they just need to see what happens in the next couple weeks with this new offensive coordinator and hope they get a W. And if not, do you go to A.J. McCarron, or do you think about possibly finding another quarterback in the draft? Because there's a bunch coming out. So next for the Bengals, I'm not really sure on what they're going to do. Hopefully they can get him a W and Andy Dalton can establish who he is. But if not, the Bengals got a lot of thinking to do. Do you bring in A.J. McCarron and see if he's going to be your next franchise? Or do you wait and see what you can draft out of the draft? Because there's going to be good quarterbacks. It's the best quarterback class, I've said it, in years. Probably 20 years, 15, 20 years. Best draft class there's been come out. And do you wait and try to get one of those to make your franchise quarterback? Or is A.J. him? Bengals got a lot of questions they got to answer. And with that there, we're going to jump into college football. The new AP poll is out. No shock, Bama's in at 1, Clemson 2, Oklahoma 3. Penn State is 4 and USC in 5. There were some big movers this week. Georgia jumped up from 11 to 7 after their win over Mississippi State. And TCU jumped up from 16 to 9. It's big. Speaking of TCU, but their big jump, they played the game, and this was why they jumped. TCU was ranked 16th, and they played number 6 Oklahoma State. Yeah, everybody knows Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph, Heisman Trophy candidate. Well, let me tell you, Kenny Hill came in there composed. That's the quarterback for TCU. Haven't heard a whole lot about him. Been around for a few years. Made a lot of noise a couple years ago, but this year, been pretty quiet. He came in there and stayed composed. He looked good. He threw 228 yards, a TD, and 1 INT. Maybe the INT was because he forced it. Maybe it was because he just got pressure. He was pressured on the throw, and he threw it, and it wasn't a great pass. So, can't really take anything to that. Jadarius Adams, their running back, though, man, did he have a game. He had a game of his career. Best one he's ever had, and he did it against Oklahoma State. He came in, had 26 carries, 160 yards, and 3 TDs. Wow. He ran all over him. He didn't have any problem. Whatever he wanted to do, he did it. At least that's what I saw in that game. He just did whatever, and if he can do that against them, is he going to be able to do it against the Texas? Because the Texas manhandled a USC, but they got manhandled by a Maryland. So can he do it against a Texas? And can he do it against an Oklahoma? Because they're really going to need him at those two, especially seeing that Texas has got a good defense, and Oklahoma is definitely going to score the points. So can he do it against those places to keep his team in it and possibly contend for a Big 12 title? We'll have to wait and see. But in that game there, he didn't have any problem doing anything he wanted. Man. TCU in that game ran the ball 52 times for 238 total yards. Say that again. 52 times for 238 yards. They ran all over Oklahoma State. Their running defense, I don't know where they were, but they didn't show up. I don't know what happened there, but they just ran the ball down their throat. And it was bad. And it was really bad. They tried with their quarterback on offense, Mason Rudolph, to do something. Mason Rudolph had a pretty good game, except he had a few mistakes. He threw for 398 yards. That's a lot of yards. 2 touchdowns, but the big factor, 2 interceptions. Killed him. You can't throw interceptions. If you throw interceptions, that'll cost a team the game. Turnovers are killer. And guess what? He did. He forced throws. He had plenty of time, but he didn't have any receivers open. He had plenty of time in the pocket. He didn't have to rush. He just forced them. And I don't know why he was forcing them when he didn't have to. All they had to do was do a little change in here and a little change in there, maybe do this or that, and he could have hit him. But he forced the throws, cost him 2 interceptions, which in all reality cost him the game. James Washington was their leading rusher over there. He had receiver. He had 6 receptions for 153 yards and 1 touchdown. It's a pretty good game. He was finding him when he was open. But if he's guarded most of the time, or they're pulling the safety over, or they're doing any of that, how are you going to hit him every time? That's just like in Indiana with Richard Lago and Simi Cobbs. They know those two love each other, and that's who likes to connect. So they're going to really watch out for that tandem there, and they're not going to get beat by it very much. And they got beat quite a bit for 153 yards, but eventually they figured it out. TCU was up 37-17, starting in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, they were up 37-17. Mason Rudolph rallied up with his boys, got them fired up, and they started going and going and going and going, and they got themselves back in this game. They got back in the game, and it was awesome that they were back in it. It was cool. You were seeing this Heisman Trophy guy get back in the game, and then all of a sudden, they score a touchdown. They're down 6. 2 minutes, 37 seconds left. Here we go. Then all of a sudden, TCU with 2:37 runs the ball 42 yards to score a touchdown and stick the dagger in him. That hurt. They had a shot to do it. It was 3rd and short, and they brought the house, and all he had to do was get by the first line, and he got by it. And once he got by it, he didn't have anybody to beat, and he was gone to the yard. 42 yards, and he put the dagger in him. TCU did. Takeaways from that game. TCU looks good. Kenny Hill, very composed in the pocket. Their running game looks amazing. And Gary Patterson has built a very, very good program there. I think they can contend after this win here to possibly win the Big 12. They're going to have to contend, obviously, with Oklahoma, which is going to be a tough feat. But they just knocked off the number 2 team in the country, everybody thought. Why can't they go beat Oklahoma? Gary Patterson's proven his program works and what he can do there with the Horned Frogs. Very, very excited to see that. And I'm excited to watch Big 12 football for sure. OK State, what's up for them next? They got a tough road to recovery. Now they just got to sit and wait and hope that the teams that are above them in the conference get losses and get beat up. Like, you hope that those teams like Texas and Oklahoma and TCU and Baylor and all them lose in conference, because that'll give you a shot to be in it again. And I understand you lost early, which that'll look better than losing late by far. So don't count him out of the Big 12 yet. And Mason Rudolph, don't count him out of the Heisman with this loss. A lot of these quarterbacks that I believe are Heisman candidates have all got a loss. Like Lamar Jackson got destroyed by Clemson. Josh Rosen got beat by Memphis. The only one that's really up there that's not lost is Sam Darnold and Shaquan Barkley. So a loss won't kill you, but 2 or 3, yes, it will. So Mason Rudolph still has a shot. He has to keep his head on, and he has to show that he can recover from this. He has to recover. His recovery is the main factor in this deal. And if he doesn't recover, well, I don't even know if he's a potential huge draft prospect because it shows he collapses after a loss. Let's go to the last game I really want to discuss here in college football. It was pretty interesting. It was actually really interesting. Penn State and Iowa. Man, it was a really good game. 21-19, Penn State wins the game. But first, let me say something about Iowa. I really like what Iowa did there at their stadium. Right outside of the stadium, they got the Children's Hospital. And at the end of the first quarter, everybody turns around and they wave to those kids who have life-threatening diseases or sicknesses. They wave to them. That's really cool. And they showed the view from up there, and they showed all the family and everybody that got to witness this game from up there. And for them to do that, that's really touching. I especially know to severe sports fans like me and kids and families, because that gives them time to be able to watch a sporting event that you might not be able to take your kids to. Like me being healthy, my dad could take me to one. Those kids might not have the opportunity to go sit and watch a football game with their father. And if that's the opportunity they get, that's going to be something that their father will never forget, and neither will that kid. And that's really cool. So huge shout out to you, Iowa, on that right there. Back to the game, though. Penn State, they had their hands full. Iowa definitely is a bunch of corn-fed boys, and you've seen it. They've always played that way. They know how to show up for big games. They're very tough. Trace McSorley showed up, and he had 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But let me tell you, the man who really showed up was Shaquan Barkley. Sorry, I couldn't get that out there. He's the one who really showed up. He had 211 rushing yards, and 94 passing yards. My man ran wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted, and however he wanted. If he wanted to run through you, he ran through you. If he wanted to juke you, he juked you. He didn't have any problem running. Total yards in that game were way lopsided. And it was nuts. Penn State had 579 yards, and Iowa only had 273. They had 200 more yards than they did. 300 more yards than they did. But the determining factors in those games, just like I said, were turnovers. Penn State had 1 fumble, 1 interception. Iowa, a goose egg. You got to hold on to the rock. If you don't hold on to the rock, you can't win a game. I don't care if you got 1,000 yards. If you don't hold on to the rock, you can't win a game. But they had the rock when it mattered. Their quarterback, McSorley, hit Jawan Johnson on a 7-yard TD pass on 4th down as time expired to win the game. Hit him. Wham. It was crowded in the end zone, and he just barely laid it over top of the safety's hands and just put it right where he needed to. The kid caught it, scored the game, and everybody went crazy. Obviously, I would have went crazy too. It was nuts. Final drive. It was insane. The final drive for them was definitely something that was looked like a young Tom Brady, I would say. He went 8. And they forced those. So that's all I have for this week in college football in the NFL. So if you want to see more, tune in next week for the RedLine episode 7, because Jimmy Red will be coming in hot.